The first dog movie of the decade has arrived. May the 2020s bring plenty of good boys. Hey everyone, it's Nathan Orenstein with The No Show, here to talk about Chris Sanders' The Call of the Wild. The Call of the Wild stars Harrison Ford, Dan Stevens, and Omar Sy, and is written by Michael Green. It's based on the 1903 novel of the same name by Jack London. The Call of the Wild is about a spoiled dog named Buck who gets stolen from his home in California and sold as a sled dog during the Alaskan Gold Rush. He's forced to adapt to this new climate and circumstances and ultimately embraces this new life. Along the way, he becomes the companion of John Thornton, played by Harrison Ford. So I don't really have too much to say about this movie because it's honestly exactly what you would expect if you watch the trailer. That being said, there are a few points I want to talk about, so let's start with the star of the show, who is Buck. I'm not gonna lie, I really fell in love with Buck. He doesn't talk to people, he doesn't talk to other animals, and he doesn't have like an inner human voice or anything. And you don't really realize how rare that is until you see a movie that doesn't have all of that. And honestly, it's pretty refreshing. To make up for that, Buck's animation is really expressive, both in his body movements and his facial expressions. And the CGI is admittedly pretty unimpressive, but I think the animation does its job to make up for this. Oddly enough, some of the CGI is way better for certain environments and animals than for others, and Buck is at the bottom of the barrel here. But as I said, this more cartoony look actually kind of helps with his expressiveness in his animations. And I'm glad that Buck is so likable because the only other real character here is played by Harrison Ford, who is clearly phoning in this performance. Aside from Buck, the movie as a whole is about as middle of the road as you can get. I'll admit that I really enjoyed the first act of this movie. Buck becomes a sled dog for a mailman in Alaska, and it's really fun watching him grow from a newbie to the leader of the pack. Unfortunately, this is probably only about a third of the movie, and the rest just does not stack up. I think the biggest problem here is the pacing. The movie moves along at a pretty relaxed pace, and then all of a sudden, a big plot point will happen in the span of like 30 seconds. Then the entire tone of the movie shifts gears, and then we repeat this cycle a few more times. It's clear that the story was not the main concern here, which honestly isn't that big of a deal, but it does leave it feeling a bit empty at times. Harrison Ford's character is dealing with the death of his son, so that does lead to some moments that are supposed to be more emotional, but I feel like the movie didn't give me much motivation to actually care that much. The focus here is clearly on Buck, and his growth from a house pet to a dog that embraces its wild nature is definitely fun to watch. But that growth kind of plateaus at a point, and once the movie hits that point, it lost most of its appeal to me. Overall, The Call of the Wild probably isn't worth a watch unless you're taking your kids or you really, really like dogs. There are definitely some really entertaining parts here, but the movie is pretty front-loaded and it doesn't give you much reason to care when things start to get serious. Buck is honestly one of my favorite movie dogs now, but even that's not enough to carry this entire film on his back. The Call of the Wild is unfortunately pretty mediocre, and I'm going to be giving it a 5 out of 10. As always, thanks for watching, and feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And if you've seen The Call of the Wild, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm actually catching an early screening of the new Pixar movie Onward this weekend, so click that bell to get notifications for whenever I post my next video. I've been Nathan Orenstein with The No Show. See you next time.